Hello everybody, it's Fireknight 3 here to give you another NFL prediction video. I'm going to try to keep this one as short as I potentially can. So here are the few updates that I'm going to show you guys. The first one is that since week 1 games are completely done, these are the results of those games as far as the win-loss records are for each team, and also what my prediction rate was, which was unfortunately a 7-9, so I went negative. Hopefully my predictions do better from this point on. And also, as you can see, my chart has changed pretty dramatically to the point of a lot of teams that I believe would make the playoffs this season are not there, and teams that I didn't think would are there now. And also, my predictions on who will win which games throughout the season and in the playoffs as well, and who will receive byes, who will make it to the Super Bowl. All of that has been changed now. And as far as each team, I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible as to why I believe they have their new results for the season that I'm predicting. And let's just go right at it. Arizona Cardinals. I believe they're going to go 9-7, be the NFC West #1 and only division representative, because I don't think the NFC West is showing itself to be that strong a division at the current moment. And I believe that they will lose in the playoffs in the wild card round versus the Washington Redskins, because I don't see them as that strong of a team, especially since I didn't see any change during the offseason, nor did I see them really prove themselves as a strong team up against a very weakened New England Patriots team. Next up, Atlanta Falcons. I believe they're going to go 4-12 because they just don't look like they're going to be that strong of a team. They may have a little bit better of an offense, but overall, I don't think they're going to do well. Baltimore Ravens, I believe they'll also be 4-12 because I don't see that much improvement in them. Despite the fact that they won their game up against Buffalo, it wasn't that big of a statement, nor did it really prove that they're going to be that strong up against some tough competitors out there. Plus, I think the team may be a bit injury prone, but that's just what I'm thinking. And also penalty prone. Like, if you're going up against this team, you might as well expect penalties. But nonetheless, that's what I believe of Baltimore. Buffalo Bills, I believe they're going to go 5-11 because I didn't see that much improvement in them, and they lost to the Ravens in a very low-scoring game, which didn't really prove them to be that strong, even with Tyrod Taylor as their new quarterback. Sammy Watkins is not at full speed at the current moment, but even he, I don't think, is going to be able to help this team to become that much stronger. Next up, Carolina Panthers. I believe they're going to go 15-1, even though they lost to Denver in the first game of the season in the Super Bowl rematch. I still believe that they're going to be able to have a perfect season from that point on. They'll be the #1 team in the entire NFC, not just in the South. They'll have the bye in wild card, and they will win up against Washington in the divisional round. They will win up against New Orleans, one of their divisional rivals, in the conference round. But in the Super Bowl, I believe they will lose again, this time to the Steelers. Next up, the Chicago Bears. I believe they're going to go 3-13 because I didn't see any true improvement in that team in their game versus the Houston Texans. They look stronger in a sense, but they don't look like they did that much improvement. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe they're going to go 10-6, but the AFC looks so strong at the moment with some of the teams there that a 10-6 is not going to cut it. Except for one team, and I'll say the reason why for that one when I get to them. But yeah, I believe Cincinnati's going to have a good year, just not make it into the playoffs, unfortunately. But that's just what I believe. Cleveland Browns. I believe it's going to be a 1-16 fight because they lost in a very bad way. They lost RG3. They have, I believe it's Josh McCown as their now starting quarterback at the moment until RG3 gets healthy, which is going to be around half season. But nonetheless, I just don't see Cleveland doing strong. And the only reason I believe they're going to have that one win against Pittsburgh at the very end of the entire season is because I believe Pittsburgh's going to make the smart choice to not risk getting any of their teammates injured in any form or fashion, and just kind of throw the game because they're not going to really need it. And I'll explain that reason when I get to them. Next up, Dallas Cowboys. I believe they're going to go 10-6. but not make it to the playoffs despite everything, even with a positive record like that. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, those are two great-looking rookies. They have Des Bryant back, and they have Dan Bailey, who is the monster kicker. If you are in any form of fantasy league anywhere on the internet, I suggest you to have Dan Bailey as your kicker. He's going to rack you up some good points. But other than that, 10-6 for the Dallas Cowboys, and that's all I can say. Denver Broncos, I believe they're going to go 15-1. They'll have that one loss against New England because at that point, the Patriots will have Tom Brady, Gronkowski, and everybody back. But yeah, I believe they're going to beat the AFC West 1 team. Do they get the number 1 seed in the playoffs? I'm not 100% sure. I think they may, though. Anyhow, I believe that they will, after the wild card round where they have their bye, they will be able to beat Jacksonville because although Jacksonville's defense looks strong, their offense still may need some work. But I believe they're going to lose their Pittsburgh Steelers in the conference round. But still, Denver looks strong as heck, even with Trevor Siemian or, if it happens, Paxton Lynch as their quarterbacks. Next up, Detroit Lions. I believe that the Lions will go 7-9 because although they had a very monstrous attack on the Indianapolis Colts, the Colts defense is definitely not a good showing of what the Lions may end up going up against later in this season. It wasn't a good test for their offense. And once their offense goes up against some of the heavy hitters, they're just not going to do as well. So that's why I believe they're going to go 7-9 this season. Green Bay Packers, I believe they're going to go 14-2 and be the second best team in the NFC, be the number 1 team in the NFC North, and also have the bye in the wild card. Though once they come back from their big break and go up against New Orleans Saints in the divisional round, I believe the Saints will be able to defeat them. But other than that, the Packers look like they are just as strong as they've always have been. They're only going to have a few misses here and there, but other than that, they have a very easy schedule ahead of them, which is why I believe that they're going to be able to get the huge results at the end of their season. Next up, the Houston Texans. I believe they're going to go 13-3 because they are a strong-looking team. Their defense is going to be strong. I can promise you that much. And with Brock Osweiler as their quarterback, as long as they protect him, give him a good line, and his targets can get open, and with the schedule that they have, I believe the Texans are going to have a very good year and make it to the playoffs. And be the second best team in the AFC South behind the Jaguars, who I'll explain in a minute. Speaking of the Jaguars, I believe they will lose to them in the first wild card round. But other than that, I believe the Texans are going to be a strong team this season. Why do I believe them to lose the wild card? I'll get to that when I get to Jacksonville. First, the Indianapolis Colts. I believe they'll go 3-13 because not only was that loss to Detroit very bad, despite the high points that team managed to rack up, they too were going up against a kind of a bad defense, so they didn't really have a challenge on their offensive end. Now, once their offense goes up against heavy hitters and their defense gets exposed, they are just not going to do well this season, which is why I believe they're going to have such a low stat. Now, as for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe they're going to go 14-2. That game against the Packers just straight up proved that this year, Jacksonville is not going to be Joke-Sonville. And yes, I just made that pun. I believe Jacksonville is going to be a strong team that's going to end up with a 14-2 record, being the number 1 team in the AFC South, and be able to beat Houston. Why? Because although both teams, as far as I'm considered, have super strong offenses, I believe Jacksonville's or their defenses are both strong, but I believe Jacksonville's offense is going to be a tad bit better and give just enough for Jacksonville to be able to make the divisionals, beat Houston, but unfortunately lose to Denver, whose defense has gone through tougher. That's my opinion. These are all predictions. Nothing is set in stone, except for week 1 results. Kansas City Chiefs, I believe they're going to go 6-10. I believe they're going to do a little better than what I probably predicted before, especially after that gigantic comeback up against the San Diego Chargers. But then again, it's the Chargers. It's not that big a statement. So I think they're going to do well, but I still hold the idea that Kansas City is not tough when it comes to strong defenses. They're not going to be able to get over that. But their offense is strong. Their defense is okay. But, yeah, that's why I believe that 6-10 is going to be Kansas City, because they're going to have things that are going to be exploitable. Los Angeles Rams. I'm sorry, LA. I still don't think that the Rams are going to show up, period, to be that big a competitor. I believe they're going to have a 1-15 season. They lost to San Francisco in a shutout. And I think that their only win is going to be against San Francisco very later in the year, where they're probably going to have their stuff together. Who knows? But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think the Rams are going to be doing that well. Next up, the Miami Dolphins, I believe, will be having a 3-13 season, because they lost to a Seattle Seahawks team that looked weak. Despite the fact that Seattle is strong, Seattle took all the way until the fourth quarter to actually become a threat and win the game. That being said, if Seattle has dropped that hard and Miami wasn't able to stop them, there's not that many teams Miami's going to be able to stop, especially with a tough schedule that they have. That's why I think they're going to be a 3-13 team. Minnesota Vikings, I believe they're going to go 7-9 this season. They showed me that Sean Hill is a better quarterback than I expected. Even though it was up against the Titans, I believe they are going to have a better year than what I previously predicted. But it's still not going to be enough to put them back in the playoffs, even if they happen to switch over to Sam Bradford at some point in the season. It's just not going to be the same, and their schedule is tough. So, that being the case, that's why I believe Minnesota's going to have that. New England Patriots, I believe they're going to go 15-1, be the number one team in the AFC East, potentially the number one team in the AFC altogether. Because even though right now they're running without Brady and Gronkowski, once they get them back, that team's going to be next to impossible to defeat. But after the bye week, I really think they're going to lose to the Steelers in the divisional round, because despite everything, I don't think New England will be ready for the attack on both sides of the ball. Actually, no, scratch that, on all three sides of the ball. Because there's the offense, the defense, and the special teams. I think Pittsburgh's special is better than New England's, to the point where I don't think that New England is going to win any game in the playoffs, despite the fact that they're going to have the best record in the entire AFC, even over Denver. That's my thoughts. New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to be the only NFC team that's going to go 10-6 and actually manage to get into the playoffs, because I think, like I predicted, they're going to be a high slinger. They may have lost to Oakland, but look at the scores that they put up. It was a 33-35 match. They are, like I said, high slingers. Drew Brees will throw that ball down the field as much as he can every single time, and his targets can get open. That being the case, I believe the Saints will, in fact, manage to make it to the playoffs. I believe they will beat the Giants the second time they face off against them this season. First time they'll lose to them. Second time in the playoffs, in the wild card, they'll beat them. They'll be able to beat Green Bay, too, because I believe at that point Green Bay is going to be not in good enough shape to be that strong a threat against them. However, I do believe that they will still lose to their divisional rival, the Panthers, in the conference round. But, yeah, that's what I think for the New Orleans Saints. For the New York Giants, I believe that we will, in fact, go 11-5. We'll be the second best team in the NFC East, but we will not win in the wild card versus the Saints. However, why do I think the Giants are going to be strong is because we proved, even in that first matchup against Dallas, that despite everything, we can still be a good threat in offense. Our defense definitely needs a lot of improvement, but it looks like that we'll be able to do that kind of easily. And our schedule is not too tough. Not too tough. So yeah, I believe that we can make playoffs this season, but we're just not going to win anything in playoffs, unfortunately. That's my opinion. Jets, I believe, will go 12-4, be the second best team in the AFC East, because they look like they are just as consistent as they were last year, and their schedule is a little easier. They may have lost to Cincinnati in the first matchup, but look how close they were to switching that thing around. Like the two teams were the whole game. They kept switching leads. Good game to watch. Jets, I believe, will make playoffs this season, just not enough to win anything in playoff in the wild card round, especially up against the Steelers. Oakland Raiders, I believe, will be 11-5 and yet not make the playoffs. That is a big statement right there. I'm saying that the Raiders are going to be a very huge, strong team with a great positive record, especially after what I saw them do against the Saints. With the fact they're willing to take those kind of risks, similar to how I believe the Giants would be willing to do the same thing. The only problem is that the AFC has so many strong teams. I don't think even an 11-5 for the Raiders is going to be enough to push them in there into the playoffs this season. If they did, if they went up against the Steelers, I would believe they would lose. But if they were to go up against Houston or Jacksonville, that's a whole different story. Maybe Jacksonville they could defeat. Texans, I don't know. But anyway, that's what I think about the Oakland Raiders at the moment. Philadelphia Eagles, I still believe they're going to be a weaker team, but I think that they will in fact have 2 wins underneath their belt. I mean, they at least have 1 right now after the way that they completely defeated the Browns. And I think they'll also have another win up against the Ravens. But other than that, the Eagles, they beat the Browns. That's not really a big statement. So until I see them beat a tougher team, I can't really say that I believe the Eagles are going to do that well this season. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, are going to go on a 14-2 streak and be the number 1 team in the AFC North. The only reason I have them losing to Cleveland in the very last game is because A, to give Cleveland a win, and B, they don't need to really risk getting in there their teammates injured for the playoffs. They want to make sure that everyone stays healthy and gets the rest, so that way they can really focus on what they have to do in the next weeks. So yeah, I believe they're going to go 14-2. And that they'll actually be strong enough of a team to win every game in the playoffs and actually win the Super Bowl this season. I think they're going to be getting Super Bowl ring number 7. That's what I think about the Steelers. Next up, the San Diego Chargers. I believe they will go 3-13 because after all the injuries that they sustained in that Week 1 matchup against the Chiefs, the fact that they completely dropped the ball in so many different ways, letting the Chiefs catch up and beat them in overtime. I just don't think San Diego is going to be that strong of a team this season. Seattle Seahawks, I believe, are going to go 9-7, tie the Cardinals for the top spot in the NFC West. But I don't think they're going to have enough in order to actually beat them for that spot. Seattle doesn't look like they're as strong as they were a couple seasons ago. So I don't think they're going to make playoffs this season, despite having a positive record. But like I said, even with positive records this season, there's going to be quite a few teams that are not going to make the playoffs. And if it's not evident already, it sounds like I'm already losing my voice. But that's what happens when you talk for as long as I've been talking, and I apologize for that. So let me just get through this quickly. San Francisco 49ers, I believe, are going to go 2-14. They may have beaten the Rams in a very harsh way, shutting them out, but it's the Rams. It's not that well developed a team. So until San Francisco proves otherwise with their players, I can't really say that they're going to have any more wins than that and Miami. So that's what I think. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe, will go 9-7 because they look like they are a good, organized, strong team, but not strong enough in order to make playoffs this season. Still, I think they're going to have quite a few good matchups that are going to have them actually win some that's going to surprise a bunch of people. But, like I said, not enough to make playoffs. That's what I believe for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tennessee Titans, I believe, are going to go 2-14. They're just not a strong team. They have good running options. They have 3 from what I can remember. Derrick Henry, great rookie. DeMarco Murray, great veteran. And Marcus Mariota, the quarterback who can be a mobile threat. But that is it for Tennessee that I believe is going to make them good enough to get those 2 wins, but not enough, clearly not enough in order to make playoffs. And finally, I believe the Washington Redskins will go 12-4, be the number 1 team in the NFC East, because they look like they are going to be a strong team despite the loss that they had against Pittsburgh. They look strong enough in order to actually beat quite a few heavy hitters. Lose a few, but they look like they're going to have an easy season ahead of them. And I believe that they'll also be enough in order for them to beat the Cardinals in the wild card round, but then lose to the Panthers in the divisional matchup. But I believe that they'll still be a strong team in the rest of this season. And those are my predictions for this season. And I'm going to make sure that I give you guys a prediction every week between Tuesday and Wednesday of each of those weeks, because those will be the only days where week games are going to be over, from Mondays, Sundays, and Thursdays. That I'll only have Tuesday and Wednesday because it won't be a day that's in between the current weekend games. So yeah, in the meantime, and also at the bottom of the thing, I'll make sure to give you guys what my results ended up being, if I end up being good at predicting or not. This will be a good way for me to see if I would be a good predictor or maybe an analyst for this stuff. But anyway, that's all I have to say for right now. This is Fireknight 3 giving you guys the second prediction video, and more to come during the season. So in the meantime, this is Fireknight 3 signing out.